noted, I think it's really common for us to at least have some awareness of, the ancestors that are in our lineage, particularly like our close lineage. If there was trauma or, grief that was unprocessed, we're often like very well aware of that because it actually maybe had an impact on us intergenerationally. And I know that was definitely the case for myself when I first started exploring this stuff. And even when I first started exploring it in a somatic way, a lot of, at first it was a lot of the kind of trauma pieces that were coming forward that I was like, whoa, where's that feeling coming from? And this learning to connect with the well ancestors is so beautiful and such a, I think, foundational piece for this work because it owns and recognizes that our bodies, like literally our physical bodies, like our DNA actually carries a sense of not only wellness, but like wisdom and knowing and like deep culture and story and tradition. It's like, even if we don't remember it cognitively, it's in our brains. And Jane, I really was so blown away by, so both Jane and Madison did our first cohort of in the 2023, the Dark Woods Grief Tending and Ritual Facilitation Training. And for Jane's, everyone gets an opportunity to facilitate something. And Jane brought this piece, this writing with the ancestors or the well ancestors and the future generations. And when you brought that into the room and facilitated us through that experience, I was totally blown away. And I'm curious, like, why do you think, Jane, that it's so powerful to come at this through writing?
I think writing can tap into parts of ourselves that we don't know are breathing, parts of our stories that have been hidden somatically. And so Madison and I are somatic healers. And so we experience everything through the body. And yet, very often those words are not forthcoming. We don't hear what different ancestors or parts of us have to say about it. We're not experiencing some of the experiences. So writing can be a safe territory to start to let the story seep out. And the kind of literature that we use by writers who've done this work and plumbed these depths inspires us to say, oh, I've got something like that going on. And so we prompt people to really explore, to visualize. We support people to imagine where in the earth or in the cosmos or in the air around us these ancestors are existing, and wanting to support us. I mean, when we feel alone, there's a song that's going through my head a lot by Ali Halprin, that I'm not alone, I'm not alone, which is Madison was talking about. We long for community. We long for places to receive us as if we really belonged there. And so writing and then sharing from your writing, which I learned through one of my teachers, Tanya Taylor Rubenstein, really helped me to plumb depths for the memoir that I've written and is going into editing. I found places that I wouldn't have found, stories I wouldn't have known if I hadn't had the support of writing through them.
Beautiful. And do you feel like part of that is because it's like the writing practice that you bring, it has a somatic element to it? Do you feel like that? Can you say more about that?
I think, a lot of writing is very heady and not somatic at all. But the writing that we're doing and that I do in my own personal practice is extremely somatic. It has to be, we have to explore that area of, the hip that is talking to me, or, the part of, the neck that or shoulder that wants to have something to say about this. So I combine it with my experience with internal family systems and really parts work talking. And a lot of those parts are sit inside of our bodies for ages, and for some people never ever get spoken. They're hidden forever because that's the culture to keep all that hidden. And the colonialists thrive off of that. They thrive off of sorrow. They eat sorrow. In this book that I've been talking about, The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, there's a whole area of the world that in which the sorrow eaters thrive on sorrow.
Wow.
And so they maintain it. And
Wow.
so how do we climb in to break the hold of, everything is sorrowful? It has to be, because some sorrow eaters are very hungry.
Wow. I love that because, and it's like, because you're really bringing home the point there of like, because often I think when people think about doing ancestor work or grief work or, these kind of maybe more shadow practices, it's like they think, oh, it's like going into the darkness and why would I want to go there? But really, it's like, that's why, because we need to transmute these energies and connect with the resource that's there so that we're not, stuck in it, stuck in the mud, kind of like you said, some people for their whole lives can be there. Yeah.
It's about liberation. And we do somatic practices that help to release the possibilities of liberation.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. And I want to go to Madison now because I know for you, Madison, like something you talk about all the time is just how one of your biggest grief is the loss of village and the loss of that sense of belonging. And would you say that the ancestor work that you've done has brought you into a sense of more connection or belonging, or, I mean, it's not the expectation that things are going to be like completely healed, but like, how has this work supported that for you personally?
Yeah, I definitely feel a greater sense of belonging, though there's like a subtlety or a softness in it. Yeah, like it's not like the Holy Grail, like I finally belong. It's like knowing, even when my mind can get all caught up, like, am I really talking to these invisible beings right now? Like my mind goes there. And I'm like, I'm still gonna light my candle. And I feel like, and I have to keep leaning into trusting that somebody has my back, that my ancestors are looking out for me, that I know that this is something that a lot of Indigenous people say, that we are the prayers of our ancestors. And so again, like I was saying, knowing where, like knowing where my people come from, and knowing our history. A lot of my ancestors are Irish, and I mean, I have a lot of different ancestors from different places, but that's the culture that I'm most drawn to. And also, I'm mostly Irish, so works out. And so I can like look at, there's some people who still carry the stories and traditions of the Irish people, which I'm so grateful for, and I can learn from them, learning from like historians and some people who are priestesses or pagans, and being able to learn how my ancestors healed, how my ancestors connected with the land, like what plants did they harvest, what plants meant certain things to them, what were their medicines. Because just so much of that has been lost. And so definitely in all of the practices and in connecting with my ancestors in various ways, like I mentioned, lighting candles or feeding them, praying, asking them for help, I definitely feel a lot more belonging. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Jane.
So, I knew you would bring this up eventually, but the example that I used of Aja coming to me is not a blood ancestor of mine, but is what we call a milk ancestor, somebody who is connected to us, but not necessarily through a bloodline or a DNA line. So some of us may need to bring in a lot of persons from whom we've learned, who've given us the space to grow, who've really saw us and believed in us in a way that our birth families didn't and couldn't because of their limited toolbox. So we're really opening a much broader toolbox of finding support.
Yeah, I just love this idea that you introduced me to, this idea of the blood and milk ancestors, and I mean, yeah, especially for those of us who have really a lot of trauma in our lineages, to be able to recognize and honor and bring in the ancestors that come from the lineages that we've received teachings and support from. It's so powerful, and I think it's so necessary in these times. For sure. So I really appreciate you bringing that forward as another resource, really.
This one came from the ocean. And, I've had others come from the stars and some come from the earth. And Madison, you've done so much work through your earth schooling about how ancestors speak to us, their bones, the people who are literally under our feet. How does the earth hold ancestors and ancestral wisdom for us?
Yeah, do you want to say a little bit about that, Madison?
Yeah, this is something that I think about being a settler here, that like under my feet are very few bones of my blood. Also, my mom is adopted, and so it's been difficult for us to find information about her family. And so, like you were speaking to, I also work like with my milk ancestors. They're not biological, but my